This is what I get for not getting here for a couple days. There are potato bugs on my plants. You can see one right there. It's a potato bug. 2 of them. Might actually be mating at the moment. And you can see all around how they've been eating my plants. So I'm pretty unhappy. So I'm going to start killing what I can of them. I've just got a bucket of soapy water. I'm going to pick them off and dump them in and see where I'm going to go from there. Not very happy at the moment though. That way you can see what their egg sacs look like. You can see this guy here. It almost looks like nothing, like a scab. That's actually a beetle. I don't want to let him go because he's going to fly away. And he's been attacking my potato plants and my tomato plants. Let's see what he's done to them. And I found a couple on my pepper plants. They haven't done much damage to the pepper plants yet, but they've gotten most of my tomatoes. And this is all for me not being here for 2 days. And it rained. I don't know if the rain brought him up. Yeah, this guy's trying to get away right now. But, yeah. So I'm going to keep trying to deal with this plant by plant. So on top of the beetles, I think I've been driven to a point of insanity today by bugs. This has been going on for like 2 weeks, and it seems to be blowing up even more today. And that is the caterpillar plague. And it's a couple different kinds of caterpillars that are all coming down from the trees. I spent half my day cleaning off this camper because they're getting into the camper and onto the ceiling. Every time I walk by this, I clear it off, and I've been dropping them in the soapy water. For the first week, I was trying not to kill them. I was just trying to, chuck them out, but I've gotten to this crazy point of frustration where it just seems like there's nothing I can do. I have to get rid of them. And they just keep coming back. And there's like hundreds. I don't know what to do about it. I'm never going to be able to beat them, but I'm trying to keep them out of the camper as best as I can. And we're just talking about it, and you can see on the ground how all this green is like little leaf cuttings everywhere. I guarantee it's from them. They eat the trees and eat all the plants. And it's all over the ground, and it has been. I mean, we get this every year, but I think this is the worst year I've seen in a while. I mean, this is just obnoxious. And right now, this isn't even bad. When I got here earlier today, this was horrible, and I spent probably an hour and a half, 2 hours trying to clean them all off the camper. Sorry, the sun's making me go out of focus there. They're just all back. It's climbing everywhere. It's falling off the roofs, covering the doors. They're getting inside. Oh, yep. You can see 3 of them hanging in the air there. Top everywhere else. So today is the Bug Insanity Day. Hey, so I just spent some time doing a bunch of research, heading back down to the garden now. I had originally called my father and talked to him. He's the vegetable guy. My mom's the flower lady. He's the vegetable man. And he was talking about that every year when he has problems with potato bugs. This is my first year having problems with them. I've grown potatoes a couple of times, never really had a problem. That what he usually gets every year is something from Gardens Alive called Piola spray. Excuse me, sorry, it took me a minute, mind blank. Piola spray. But he said it's really expensive. You have to order it online. Frankly, I don't have that many potato plants. You're looking at $30 to $50 a jug, depending on how much you want to get, and that kind of thing. So, went online, did some research, found out that what it's made from is pyrethrin, mixed with canola oil. If you look up pyrethrin, all pyrethrin is an extract from pyrethrum, which is a type of daisy. And you can actually find pyrethrin extract pretty cheap, probably about $11, $15 for a good sized bottle. Line canola oil, obviously really cheap. Get that for $2 at the grocery store. So what I'm thinking, because I don't want to have to wait for it to ship in, pay shipping, pay all that money, is that I think that I'm going to stop at the store, see if I can get a bottle of each, make my own pesticide for it, and hopefully that should take care of the beetles, especially because he said or at least what my father was saying, is that it's not necessarily the adults that really cause the damage to the plants. It's actually their larvae. So when the larvae hatch and they're eating the plant to try to grow, that they really do the huge damage on the plants. The other thing while I was doing my research that I found out was that other little beetle that I was looking at that I wasn't quite sure what it was called, that's a type of tortoise beetle called the clovate, I believe it was. Clovate tortoise beetle originally came from, and I actually see one on the tomato plant right now, I'm going to grab him. But they originally came from China, invaded Canada. They're making their way down south, and apparently they will eat everything in the garden. They're not huge on the leafy greens, but otherwise they'll pretty much attack everything. So I'm hoping the same spray will take care of that too. It's a really good way. It seems like it's going to be non-damaging to you, non-damaging to the plants. It's a way of doing it not completely chemically, that kind of thing, trying to stay as natural as we can, but should still work really good. So I think I'm going to experiment with that tomorrow. It is supposed to thunderstorm and downpour all day tomorrow, so I'm sure that's going to have an effect on everything that I'm doing, but we'll work around it and see what the weather actually does. So otherwise, I'm going to keep dealing with these guys, pulling those beetles off that I see right there. I'm also going to be re-hilling my potatoes today before the night's over, which is what I originally came down here to do when I found this problem. And then I also noticed that I wanted to show you that the potatoes, a couple of them, not all of them, but are starting to flower. You can see a flower forming right in there. Another one over here. So we'll just let those do their thing. So that'll be good. Oh, and there's another tortoise beetle right there too. Buggers are everywhere. Oh, and I just dropped him. Yeah, I'll find him. Yeah, so I'm going to keep working at this plant by plant. Definitely come back tomorrow and try to go at it some more. On a better note, I did want to share with you guys that my Pac-Man broccoli is coming in really well. Hoping I'll do well with that, because broccoli is another one I've never had great luck with. It always gets a bit lanky, and I haven't ever gotten really very good heads off of it. Still learning, so I'm hoping that that's going to do well. It's doing really well so far. And also, I got red acre cabbage that's coming in pretty nicely. And I've got some zucchini. Nice big standard normal elite zucchini. And the plants are starting off pretty nicely. So I'm hoping those will get big and full. One thing I did learn last year was to plant your zucchini at opposite ends of the garden. So I've got a zucchini in every corner rather than next to each other, because they tend to get a powdery mildew on them that overnight, if it gets on one, it spreads to all of them and you'll lose all your zucchinis. So I've learned to keep them far away from each other, distance them. And that way if you lose one plant, you don't lose all the rest. Those are coming in pretty nicely. And otherwise, I did want to show you how I did my fence here. I just got simply save money wise. I reused stuff from at home too. And I put in 2-foot fence along the bottom there. That I did use all those crazy rocks that came out. Chris built me a nice rock wall around the edges there. And then I used, try not to step on anything here, 6-foot hardwood stakes. Those are pretty cheap, $1 or $2 a piece, just around the edges. And what I did was I used a natural braid twine to go around side, 2 different levels to keep deer out as well as possible. One thing that I have learned that will help, that's really not stopping the deer and stuff like that, is that it's not the prettiest thing, but you can take one of just your standard white plastic shopping bags and every so often just tie it onto the string. And especially at night and in the dusk and everything, when it's waving and blowing and crinkling in the wind, it'll tend to spook things away from the garden. So I'm hoping that that's all going to help out with some protection. So I seem to have mainly gotten a handle on the bugs just by keeping up with that and constantly picking them off. The potato beetle seemed to be completely gone, that I can tell. It keeps surprising me, but I haven't seen anything. The tortoise beetle, I've only found 1 or 2 here and there, and keep picking them off, so I am going to spray these guys down with a canola oil insecticide. I'm going to hold off on the pyrethrin because I like to spray as little as I possibly can. If I don't need it, I'm not going to use it. Plus, I was having trouble finding a straight pyrethrin in the stores. It's something that I would have had to order online, and then you have to pay for shipping on a liquid and all that kind of stuff, which is no fun. The only other problem I've had so far is that the past couple days we've had some really high winds, not horribly high, but pretty high winds. And as you can see, it's taken a little bit of a toll on my potato plants. Luckily, there's only one here that actually broke. You can see right here. Everything else is just kind of blown over a little bit. So I've been standing them up. As you can see, the wind's been coming down the hill from behind me because the ones in back are still standing up pretty good. The ones in front are having the worst damage. So I'm standing those up back up a bit just by pressing the soil down around them. I do want to hill a little bit more too. These potatoes are growing ridiculously. The spray that I'm using, I'm just using the canola oil spray. Canola oil, I'm just doing a 1/4 cup of it to the 1 gallon of fresh water. I've seen people use up to a cup per gallon. I'm not going to use that much. I'm just going to do the 1/4 cup. Pretty much what it's going to do is it's just going to smother any soft-bodied insects like the beetles and that kind of thing. I definitely am going to only spray the plants that are affected, even though your first instinct might be to spray everything. You don't want to do that because it's not just going to kill the bad bugs, it is going to take out the good bugs too, and you don't want to do that if you don't have to. So we're only going to spray those affected plants, and I'm just using your typical pesticide sprayer. This is just a 1 gallon HDX brand. Got it for $9 and change or so from Home Depot. Depending on where you live, the cost may vary, obviously. If you don't want to go to that extent, or if you have it around the house, you can always just use a spray bottle too. It'll just take you a little bit more time and that kind of thing. So, and of course, always whenever you're using one of these, definitely label it with what you sprayed with, especially if you're using chemical pesticides. You don't want to be mixing things you shouldn't be, and that kind of thing. So I'm just going to give that a shot, give it a spray, do a little bit more hilling. Oh yeah, and when you do spray with the canola oil or anything like that, you want to avoid the midday sun when it's at its highest. You want to get it when it's a little bit shadier like it is now, or in the morning or late day, because you don't want that direct sun to actually burn your foliage through the canola oil. So we're going to avoid that. And now that it's a little bit later in the day and we've got some shade and the sun's kind of starting to go down towards the trees a little bit more, it's not so direct, we'll do some spraying.
The chicken is very intrigued by the bearded dragon, as you can see. We were passing by and figured we'd show him to each other.
It's like a magnet on the glass or something.